All right, in today's video, Marjorie Taylor Greene just got kicked out of the MAGA movement by the president. Also, Epstein files continue to be weaponized. And finally, the White House has a major update regarding the affordability crisis. We'll get to all of this in this video, but let's start with what the president had to say on Air Force One last night about MTG. Take a look.
That would be happening. And by the way, I stay home 98% of the time. The last thing I want to do is travel 22 hours in an airplane, as nice as this plane is. So, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not anyway, I mean, she is a very different thinking than I have. Something happened to her over the last period of a month or two where she changed, I think, politically. I think that her constituents aren't going to be happy. Already, I have people calling me. They want to challenge her to a race in her district in Georgia. And, you know, that's too bad. She's lost a wonderful conservative reputation. But when she says, don't go overseas, if I didn't go overseas, we might be in a war right now with China.
All right, so I think it's safe to say that Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Marjorie Taylor Brown, as President Trump is calling her, has been officially kicked out of the MAGA movement, if that makes sense. Because ultimately, it's the president who says he created this movement. It's the president who says what MAGA is and where we're going, etc. And so this is probably inevitable if you had been paying attention to her recent statements. And the big deal breaker for someone like President Trump is loyalty. And if you start contradicting him in public, especially on left-leaning networks, yeah, he's going to call you out. So this is what he said this morning. Lightweight Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Brown, because green grass turns brown when it begins to rot, betrayed the entire Republican Party when she turned left, performed poorly on the pathetic View, and became the rhino that we all know she always was. Just another fake politician, no different than Rand Paul Jr., Thomas Massie, who got caught being a full-fledged Republican in name only. Rhino.
A lot of back and forth, even just this morning. Greene was once, of course, a top ally of President Trump. Their relationship, though, really seems to be falling apart now. The two leaders are trading attacks on social media, and the Epstein files are playing a big role here because Greene is one of the leaders of that movement in the House to try and force the DOJ to release the files. But the congressman has spoken with the Republican Party in recent months on several issues, things like Gaza and healthcare. She's also criticized President Trump for focusing too much on foreign issues rather than domestic ones. And it's all of that criticism that prompted President Trump to pull his endorsement of Greene in a post last night when things really seemed to reach a boiling point.
So there's going to be a lot of reaction to this falling out, of course, a lot of opinions, but I think I want to focus on the facts of the case. Who is President Trump at his core? He is a businessman, and what does he value more than anything else? Loyalty. So not only has Marjorie been going on left-leaning networks, which I actually encourage. I think conservatives should go on there, especially when they want us to go on there, because we know they don't really want us to go on there, right? In some cases, we're banned from going on there. At any rate, the problem is she goes on there and she contradicts the president, so that's strike one. Strike two, she also contradicts herself on certain policies like H-1B visas. It was just almost a month ago where she was complaining about illegal aliens getting deported in the construction industry and saying that we need to figure another way out. And now she's all about banning H-1B visas. So there's a flip-flop there. And then third, which just happened last night, she wrote this long message as a response to the president saying that he was pulling his endorsement. But she posted a copy of the text message, if I zoom out here, of the president. So again, loyalty would say you would never post a copy of a private text message between you and the president. I mean, that's already an...
But I wanted to talk to you about this shutdown. There's been a lot of controversy about it. You know, many people are glad that it's over, but many of the Democrats are still upset about the Obamacare payments, how that's ended up. You seem to be siding with the Democrats on this. At one point, Hakeem Jeffries called Marjorie Taylor Greene an ally. So I'm wondering how you feel about this. Are you surprised yourself that you're aligned with the Democrats on some of these issues? And President Trump says you seem to have lost your way. Can you respond to both about you?
Well, first of all, I haven't lost my way. I'm for the American people only. I'm America first, and I make no apologies about that to anyone. And as far as health insurance is concerned, it hurt my own family. Back in 2010, the Democrats passed Obamacare. And in 2014, when it went into effect, my family's health insurance premium went from $800 to over $2,400 a month. And we've seen the health insurance industry prices just go up and up. And now that the ACA tax credits are expiring, which the Democrats did put in place, and they set the expiration date for this year, I see a financial crisis for Americans.
Okay, so before I respond to that clip, let's just make sure we're giving you guys the full picture. The president is going after Thomas Massie, as you guys know. Now he's going after MTG. And at the same time this is happening, which in my opinion has been a terrible week for him messaging wise, people are complaining about affordability. Now she's going on to these left-leaning networks crying about affordability, but her actions say she's more focused on releasing Epstein files. So what you have is this interesting mix of people not focusing on the right thing overall. We're over here talking about affordability. What is Congress talking about? Epstein. We're over here talking about affordability and how Gen Z needs to get more jobs and needs to get more opportunities. And what is the president saying? Oh, we have a lack of talent. So there's a lot of messaging that isn't resonating with the average working class American. And both sides are failing at it at this point. We know that. At any rate, this isn't going to end well for Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you just look at the past results, she isn't a Thomas Massie. She has not won re-election after re-election in the way that he has. She's more likely to get primaried before he is, for an example. So this is a risk she's willing to take. Some people support what she's doing. Some people support what the president is doing. But ultimately, our focus needs to be on the issues that are negatively impacting everyday families.
I always think it's just someone trying to say to me, I don't want to answer your question by just trying to deflect that way. I find it a deflection when people say, don't focus on this. You need to focus. Everyone only cares about this one issue.
Well, I mean, if you're analyzing it from the perspective of like political consultant speak, like what do voters care about? How do we get voters to move a certain direction? Next year, the way you'll get voters to move would be on cost of living, healthcare. I mean, things that actually motivate their lives. They may have some interest in this, some passing interest in it, but motivation to vote? I mean, everybody knows what the bread and butter issues are. This won't be one of them, but the ones that will be relevant are quite obvious.
I disagree with Scott fervently on Donald Trump, and I could not agree with him more on that point. Voters aren't going to care about this next year. For better or for worse, they are going to care about things like affordability. Everyone in politics is going to be running that direction.
Okay, now, have you seen this hoodie that you are watching here on the screen? Because it's just phenomenal. I have one of them, actually. And it's very important because people are locking in their winter gear right now. You know why? Because they're going to be able to save so much money. And this is why it's important for you to take a look at Bearskin. They're running a 60% off deal right now, but only if you get the hoodie early. This hoodie is built like a tank. 340 GSM micro fleece, 10 pockets with a clean, rugged fit that looks awesome. Plus, it zips right into their heavy storm rain jacket to become 100% waterproof when you most need it. And here's one more thing that I think is truly important. When you support Bearskin, you're supporting the fallen outdoors and the Hope for the Warriors Veterans Program. So it's not just you're buying more gear, but you're actually supporting a cause. So lock in your winter gear today. You're going to get free shipping. It's fast delivery. All you have to do is text DeVory to 36912. Text DeVory to 36912 to lock in your 60% off again today. And remember, you're supporting a cause for our veterans. Yeah, they should be running in that direction right now. And the issue still remains that on the Democrat side, we're talking about prices are too high, homes are too high, insurance is too high, wages are too low. And all of this obviously got worse under the Biden administration, for the record, because everybody wants to forget that for some reason. And what is the response from Democrats? Epstein. Well, listen, they're not the only issue here. Let's go to Republicans. We want to get the debt to be paid down. Trump wants to talk about tariff checks. We want voter ID. Republicans are silent. We want to ban H-1B visas. Trump believes we don't have the talent to do that. And we definitely want the affordability crisis addressed, but everybody in conservative media wants to talk about Megyn Kelly, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, and Candace Owens. We're totally off message right now. Now, I'm not blowing smoke here On my daily live show, I continue to stress what people can do about their affordability issues, their financial issues. Number one, you have to work on your mindset. You got to adopt an abundance mindset. You got to get out of the victimization and start acting like the hero who you truly are. Two, you have to understand financial literacy. You don't need to master stocks and bonds. You have to understand the difference between an asset and a liability, and you got to start living your life that way. And number three, you got to start solving problems for your neighbors, your community. You have gifts and talents that you can use to solve problems for other people to earn more money than you would in a 9-to-5. And I would strongly just do both. Keep your 9-to-5 and then work on the weekends. That's what people can do. Now, instead of obviously Congress talking about that, they're still obsessed with the Epstein files, which takes us to what the president had to say about that last night. Take a look.
Jennifer, go ahead.
Why were you, or why was your team encouraging Congresswoman Boebert and Congresswoman Mace to not pursue
Because
this?
we think it's bad to talk about it because it gets away from the subject of how well the Republicans are doing. We have the greatest economy. We have the largest investment ever made in our country's history. We have all of these great things happen. We have very little inflation, whereas he had record-setting, the biggest inflation in history. All of these things are good. And when you talk about the Epstein hoax, what happens is you're not talking about how well we've done. Mr. President, and that's the whole purpose behind them. They want to waste people's time, and some of the dumber Republicans like that.
Mr. President, on that subject, are we going to see...
It's mostly Democrats.
Now, you're going to have to use a couple of extra brain cells to discern that when the president says it's a hoax, what he is really saying is that Democrats' handling of this is a hoax. They want to pin everything on the president. They want to make it all about the president. They don't truly want to make it about the victims, because if they did care about the victims, they would have did all of this, okay, when they were in power. They would have had committees. They would have had press conferences. They would have brought the victims to Capitol Hill. It would have been well documented. That didn't happen. So that's why, in my opinion, at this point, he continues to stick with that it's a hoax. Now, the problem when you go to the other side of things, which is these crazy people who have Trump derangement syndrome, they don't mind just coming out and saying that the president is a pedophile. That's how disgusting they are. And you know they're so disgusting that even CNN hosts are having to push back on them when they start talking this way. Take a look.
You don't care that the president might be a pedophile? You don't care that the
pedophile.
You don't.
No evidence of that.
No, there's no evidence of it, but that's what. No, it's not insane. That's what we've been talking about all week.
There is no evidence of that. We are not going to.
No, but that's what the emails have been talking about. That's what we've been talking about all week. That's why he doesn't want to release the files. And to say that nobody cares is kind of absurd. If the president is a pedophile, we should know about it, and people would care about that.
All right, no one is suggesting that President Trump is a pedophile.
And that is the disgusting part about all of it, is that we live in a world today where people can just spew off accusations like that without any evidence and have people believing them, right? You have people walking down the street literally believing that the president is a pedophile, and they express all their anger towards him regarding that particular idea, but they have no tangible evidence to suggest that that is even true. And the evidence that does exist, where there are people who are Democrats who have been implicated in this, right? They have nothing to say about them. That's why you can't really take this stuff too seriously, because this is more of a reality TV show than anything else. This isn't about true justice. We know that. Now, what's interesting, this morning on CNN, they brought on this author who wrote a book about Epstein. He's not buying these emails either. Listen to this.
On that 2011 email, we'll put it up on the screen, and I will ask you, the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. What do you think he's referring to?
Well, I think Jeffrey Epstein is referring to the fact that he believes that Donald Trump talked to Michael Ryder, who was the Palm Beach police chief in 2004, and began the first investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. I suspect that Jeffrey Epstein, in his conversation or email with Maxwell, was saying he was 75% there, believing that Trump might have been the whistleblower at the time. Again, you have to remember that particular year, the two men had a falling out, not only over the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell was taking young women from his spa at Mar-a-Lago for Jeffrey Epstein, but they also had a nasty real estate deal that both men were trying to get. So there was bad blood between the two of them.
So when you hear that explanation, which clearly is not rooted in emotion, okay, it's a logical analysis of what the facts are, you can conclude that, yeah, that these emails are going nowhere, really. And what Democrats are banking on is that most people aren't going to do the research, right? I was thinking about this last night. We've been hearing Joe Rogan, as an example, complain about these deportations. I can guarantee you Joe Rogan has not looked at every single video in its entirety. I guarantee at the same time he has not looked at the rap sheets and the reports from the Department of Homeland Security. I guarantee you he did not look at the actual articles and the way that they are written, put it all on the table, and then do the research that way. No, what happens is people see a clip, people see an email, people see a post, they read it, they accept it as fact, they keep pushing. They're too lazy. They don't do research today. They don't do critical thinking. So I appreciate that response from the author there. Now, again, we still have Democrats, particularly podcasters now, floating that pedophile name around. And the reason why I want to play this for you is because I have an interesting thought process to how we all should be responding to this. Take a look.
Think about teenage girls that you know that are 14, 15, 16 years old, no matter how developed or underdeveloped they are. Think about how childlike they are mentally and emotionally. And then think about 40, 50, and 60-year-old men that you know. And that's what happened here. These men are rapists. They are pedophiles. They are predators. And the Republican Party, under the Christian signaling leadership of Kanks, are trying to act like they care about children. And you even have Kanks talking about the Bible protecting children. He participated in and knew all about this child pedophilia ring. And because he's so compromised, our national security is compromised.
Okay, well, number one, Democrats do not have any credibility when it comes to the protection of children. We know they like boys and girls sports. We know they don't care about who's the guardian of these children. We know that they also entertain people who love to molest children and have a special category for them with the LGBTQ plus nonsense. That's who that party is. That party supported that nonsense, by the way. It's the same party that allow children to be smuggled across the border, handed off to people who weren't vetted for what? To be trafficked in the end and sexually assaulted? So sorry, you hold no moral high ground on this particular issue. In fact, the Department of Justice and FBI has done more to protect children today, just in the first 9 months, than the Biden administration did in 4 years. And let's not get into this whole thing that he's protecting pedophiles, because he is the guy who cut off Jeffrey Epstein, and everybody knows that. But again, this is what we have to understand when they start talking this way. Now, let's go to our next update. This is about affordability, because as we continued to scream about it this past week, the White House has finally got the message. They're shifting their message. And now they're claiming that they're going to be focusing more on affordability. And let's just give you an example, because this is what was reported from the White House yesterday. Take a look.
President Trump is personally making moves as well. Fox Business's Charlie Gasparino is reporting that during a White House dinner with business titans this week, the president asked them for their take on how to tackle affordability. Fox Business's Jackie DeAngelis is in studio with me, and we'll get to her in a moment. Let's start with senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy. Peter.
Harris officials here have a lever to pull to try to quickly bring down the prices of everyday household items and everyday groceries. And the lever that they are pulling is to start exempting certain groceries from tariffs.
Now is the right time to, to release some of these items that the president said he was going to release. And I mean, when you look at Southeast Asia and South America, that's where we get a lot of this stuff. You know, the coffee, the cocoa, the bananas, those kinds of things. So this is a natural outgrowth of exactly what the president signaled, and that's what he's doing today.
That could help in the short term, and then in the long term, the White House wants to cut a bunch of red tape, especially the kind that holds up houses from being built, with the argument being that the current housing inventory has been flooded for several years with illegal immigrants. New houses plus deportations could free up a lot of existing homes and apartments, according to Vice President Vance.
Now, before we get to what the vice president had to say, again, this is exactly what the administration should be focused on. Not on Marjorie Taylor Greene, not on Thomas Massie. Republicans shouldn't be focused on Epstein files. They should be focusing on actually delivering on the issues that impact people right now in this moment. Because if Republicans fail to do that, what will the younger generation do? They will turn to socialism. I keep screaming about this. It's just the reality that we find ourselves in. Again, judgment time for the Trump administration is not right now, is next spring. It's after tax season. It's when the one big beautiful bill goes into effect. It's when some of these executive orders and seeds that the president has planted, he may start to see these things actually harvest. That's how we're going to know whether everything he's been doing is right by this country. The results will tell the story. Now, here's what the vice president had to say.
A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who were taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had.
Okay, so what the vice president is saying there is partly true. I'm sure at some level, illegal aliens have impacted the supply. But really, the issue is not illegal aliens. The issue is the supply itself. Meaning, one, it is hard for real estate developers to build homes at an affordable price, which obviously slows down the amount that they could build. Two, we know zoning, permits, red tape also is a barrier for real estate developers. Three, we know that people seeking to go get a mortgage, even when they have decent credit, it's also hard for them to qualify. And we live in a world today where right now I could go down to my local university and get a student loan like that. But if I want to go buy a house right now, they're going to send me through all these hoops. Okay. So that's what needs to change at its core. Usually people are talking about symptoms. The root cause is the system itself when it comes to building homes and getting people to qualify for them. Okay. Now, let's go to what Shermichael had to say about this, because I loved his point.
Sure, Michael, let's watch what the White House has been saying about this. This is the president, various other officials, the vice president, Kevin Hassett, and others about the affordability crisis. And we'll try to make sense of it on the other side. Watch.
The reason I don't want to talk about affordability is because everybody knows that it's far less expensive under Trump.
We have to remember they're expensive because we inherited this terrible inflation crisis from the Biden administration.
We've never been hotter than we are right now. This is the hottest country anywhere in the world.
We understand that people understand as they look at their pocketbooks and go to the grocery store that there's still work to do.
I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had.
My rent's too high. I can't afford to buy a house. Groceries are too expensive. You think they're just misperceiving what's happening in their lives?
I think that that we inherited an affordability crisis.
I mean, sure, Michael. Would you like to add to the pantheon of cable news
not at all. I think this is a terrible messaging point. We have not delivered on affordability. Even Steve Bannon, for goodness sakes, has advised, like, hey, this is not the right message. The 50-year mortgage is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. We have a supply issue. If you really want to address this, let's tackle maybe looking at people's rental history as a consideration to qualify for a loan. Let's figure out how to change some of the zoning requirements to lower the bureaucracy that costs a lot of money at the local level.
And that's why I've said it throughout this video. This past week, from a messaging standpoint, a political strategist standpoint, has been poor from the White House. Okay? There's no way to defend that. Now, they will correct course because, again, the president has great instincts. He will correct course. It's just a matter of time. And will there be enough time for his policies to go into effect, the one big beautiful bill, that younger voters and independents will start feeling better about the economy leading into the midterms? Nobody knows the answer to that. But we're going to find out next year, of course. So while everybody is obviously doom and gloom and complaining and all this other stuff, at the end of the day, let's take a step back here. He's already planted the seeds. Let's see it grow, and we're going to find out what we're able to harvest, and that's not going to happen until next spring. That's when it's truly judgment time. But on this messaging regarding affordability, yeah, they could do a better job, and there's plenty of things that they can do in the short term to start planting better seeds to fix this housing crisis.
You could even throw around the idea of, hey, if you're a state, the federal government will match dollar by dollar if you come up with an incentive program to help new homeowners. There are systematic approaches here that we could take. This isn't one of them. This doesn't help people who are my age, early 30s, buy a house. And out of my friendship,
early 30s.
I mean,
I know.
It's Casey.
Every time I remember this,
But
that's what I call.
like it's only out of my group of friends, it's maybe me and 3 others that actually can afford to buy a house. I own one. 2 others own homes, and they're not the greatest homes for the 2 others. I'm like fortunate as hell to be in the predicament that I'm in. But that's not representative of the average person.
I can also.
Yep, I'm in total agreement with Michael. And here's the full picture. Under the first Trump administration, the average inflation rate was 1.9. Under the Biden administration, it was 5%. Currently, right now, it's an average of 2.7%. So when you do the math, you realize the damage really occurred under the Biden administration. And the president is tasked with doing something that, in my opinion, right now is impossible because they didn't allow a recession to take place. And maybe the word allow isn't proper, but, you know, if I could go back in time and I was the president, I would have forced the recession immediately, as quickly as possible, because it's the only method tried and true to bring costs down across the board. And we know that many things in our economy is really overinflated, overvalued, and that's because of inflation. So when we're talking about the housing crisis, obviously inflation has, you know, played a huge role in that. And so the Republicans are going to need to get smart. They're going to need to lay out a plan and then need to get to executing, because the president has done all he could do. He's signed the executive orders already. So what is Congress doing? All right. So if you're still watching this video, obviously I'm on the road. We just did the podcast yesterday with Tim Pool. It was really good. Great team. Tim is really a good guy. And we're headed to Fresh and Fit on Monday, do a podcast with Myron, and then we'll be back in the studio on Tuesday. Now, having said all that, let's get your guys' reaction in the comment section below to these stories today. First, let's start with Marjorie Taylor Brown, as the president is starting to call her, or Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's another name he's giving her. Whose side are you on in regards to this particular beef? Do you support what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing, or do you support what the president is doing? Secondly, what do you make of the Epstein files after this week? I think we're nowhere near what we really want to get to, which is people being held accountable, okay? Democrats are not actually interested in that. They're interested in trying to pin everything on the president. Let me know if you guys see it the same way. And finally, this affordability crisis, particularly home ownership. What do you think? If you were in charge, what would be the first thing that you would do? Just give me your thoughts and everything you got in the comments section below. Now, in our next video, the Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson's getting exposed on a couple of things. One, his low approval rating. 2, his school system has been defrauding taxpayer dollars by taking luxury trips and luxury hotels. So if you guys missed out on that update and more, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.